Right, welcome back to the True Geordie YouTube channel. Today we are talking Russell Brand, who has been charged by police for multiple charges, which I'm going to get into today. Obviously, I've been friendly with Russell over the years, and when I first heard about this, I was like, no way can that be true. Surely not. Obviously, I didn't have any details or anything. It was just my first thought, you know. And with how many male celebrities have been accused of this sort of thing, like the likes of Ronaldo even, you know, like so many male celebrities have been accused of this sort of thing. You never know if this is going to go anywhere. So at that point, you know, I knew nothing. I knew nothing of where this was going to go. I just thought, I'm not going to talk about it until anything develops. And now is that time, right? Like, he's going to go to court, and if that goes bad for him, he's going to jail, right? So as much as I'd rather not talk about it, because I've been friendly with him in the past, it would be insane to avoid an elephant in the room like this when I cover all sorts of things on this channel that are similar to that. And honestly, my thoughts are all over the fucking place on this one, because there's a feeling that you have about a person who you've been friendly with, and then you read things and you're like, fuck me, this is fucking mind-blowing. What the fuck are you supposed to think in this scenario? So I hope that you lot understand before you bash me in the comments for whatever I do wrong in this video. It's a strange one, this. And I'm just going to do my best to cover it as tactfully and as honestly as possible and give you guys the information that I always try and give you in all of these videos, and really dig as deep as I can and give you all aspects of this. And the best way to do that is to start off with like my actual relationship with Russell, which obviously I had him on my podcast a couple of times, but I also spent a bit of time out of the podcast with him. When I got cancelled, like, yeah, I had a few close people around me who contacted me, but there was people who I thought would contact me and didn't. And then there was Russell who contacted me, and that surprises, right? Because yeah, I'd had him on the podcast, but he was really good to me in that moment and said some really powerful and kind words. When you're at a low point and someone says something really kind to you like that, it means more, doesn't it? It stays with you. And I just remember thinking, you know what, I really fucking appreciate that. And it actually went a step further, because I went through a really dark time after that, and I was drinking a lot. Like, fucking, I was an Olympic gold medalist at downing whiskey. I wasn't a full-blown alcoholic in that it wasn't dependent on alcohol, but I was taking it to the places where people should never fucking take it, right? And I reached out to Russell and I just said, mate, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do about this drinking. Like, I need to talk to someone. Do you know anything? And he was like, yeah, mate, come to my meeting with me. I go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. Come to my meeting. And he brought me along and introduced me to all these, you know, guys who are going through similar things, obviously, you know, different lives, but in similar problems. And it was very helpful. And Russell was really fucking nice to me. And I only went to, you know, the one meeting because I realized a few things in that meeting, but it was a really positive experience, and one that I was very grateful to Russell for helping me have. And actually, side note, if anyone is struggling out there, I do really recommend to go to that sort of thing, because especially men, because we never fucking talk, do we? They're really powerful. So after that, look, me and Russell, we haven't been best mates. We don't text all the time, but there was a level of admiration and respect there that I had for him that I didn't have for a lot of people. That's what makes this video pretty difficult, to be honest with you, because he is accused of some very bad things here. And obviously, when it first came out, after having that experience with Russell, I'm like, doesn't sound like the guy that I've met, like, fucking hell. And people have been emailing me going, well, you can't talk about Andrew Tate and then not talk about him. And I get that. I get that. But with Andrew Tate, we've seen videos of Tate beating up a 15-year-old girl, you know. We've seen his own voice notes of what he wants to do to women. We've seen millions of text messages of him going back and forth and how he grooms the women. And it's just right there on the page. We've even read a manual he wrote about how to groom women. Obviously, I've never seen anything like that from Russell. So again, when these allegations arose, I just thought, well, the police will look into it, it'll be nothing, and he'll be innocent. And he could still very well be innocent. But him being charged is supposed to indicate that the police think that they've got enough evidence there to get a potential conviction. And that definitely kicks things up a notch. These allegations are from 20 years ago. The man I met in Russell was a very mellow version of the Russell Brand that we've seen throughout his life. Obviously, he used to be a wild lad, right? I don't know what was going on 20 years ago. Only he knows, and only the women who've accused him know. But what we do know is that the charges are serious allegations. Russell's been charged with rape, I think it's multiple charges of rape, and 2 counts of sexual assault between 1999 and 2005. According to Sky News, Brand is accused of raping a woman in the Bournemouth area in 99 and indecently assaulting a woman in the Westminster area of London in 2001. He's also accused of orally raping and sexually assaulting a woman in Westminster in 2004. 2004. A fourth charge alleges that a woman was sexually assaulted in Westminster between 2004 and 2005. And just speaking generally here, like whenever there's multiple people accusing one person of the same thing, it's different to when it's 1v1, right? There's often times where people go, well, it's her word versus his, and everyone's got their own side of the story, and people can make, their own conclusions from that sort of situation. But when there's multiple people all saying the same thing about one person, it just becomes harder for the general public to believe that one person could be innocent. And obviously, Russell has denied these allegations multiple times now, so absolutely you have to make that clear. Now, apparently the reason that these multiple allegations have surfaced at the same time is something to do with the documentary that the Times and Channel 4 made where they investigated him. I don't know if it's the same women in the documentary or if that prompted other women to come forward. And when that documentary came out, a lot of people were basically saying, oh, it's a hit piece on Russell, he's speaking out against the government right now. They're trying to do whatever they can to silence him. And obviously, I don't fucking know, but you look at it and you go, okay, Channel 4 and the Times, why would two different companies who they're not owned by the same guy as far as I'm aware, double team like this? And look, maybe that's more common in journalism than I realize, right? I'm not a fucking expert here, but I did find that slightly strange. And it was around a time where Russell was really fucking going after the government, and I'm not saying that this is why the documentary was made, but he was absolutely uncovering shitloads of corruption. He was going after the corrupt spending around COVID. All of that was coming out, and he was doing a very good job of it. And when the documentary came out, a Conservative MP, I think, she wrote to all the major platforms telling them to stop Russell's money immediately so that he wouldn't earn a penny from what he was doing. And YouTube immediately demonetized him before he'd been found guilty at a trial, anything like that. They were like, okay, fuck him. I think because so many dominoes fell in one moment, I think it gave some people, particularly the people who support Russell and still support him, it gave them reasonable doubt. Now, as for the documentary, that really was set around the time where Russell was in his earlier years, where by his own admission, he was a massive womanizer. It painted him in a bad light, like really bad. And it especially, obviously, when these women were given their accounts of how he allegedly attacked them. And I'm not saying that I believed it or I didn't believe it, but when you're hearing people speak about someone that you've known to be really nice to you in that way, it's just fucking shocking, right? It's just mind-blowing. And I'll be honest, I was just sat there thinking, fuck me, I don't know what to fucking think about this. And the allegations aside, there were things in that documentary that I felt like just cheapened it a bit and made it look less like an investigation and more like a hit piece. Russell Brand is not on trial for making bad jokes and doing rude behavior. Like, that's not what this is about here. And yet they were just throwing everything at him. Do you know what I mean? Everything they could do, everything they could say was coming out. And I was like, what relevancy does some of this really have to the serious stuff that you're actually bringing up here? If anything, you're taking away from that. For example, one of the things they did was they would have an account of a girl who was saying what she said had happened. And in the middle, they'd have like a dodgy, bad dick joke made by Russell Brand and then cut back to her as if to say, see, he does do that sort of thing. Look at what he said in that joke. And it's like, well, he's making jokes on stage though. Like many comedians say bullshit on stage that is just for effect. It made it look like this wasn't really like an investigation in the truest sense of the word, right? An investigation is where you're looking for whatever results you find and you'll paint the good and the bad. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, let's make him look as bad as humanly fucking possible. And I just thought, the allegations are bad enough. Like, you don't need to put his dick jokes in the middle of them. What effect is that having? And look, before anyone gets my words twisted here, what I'm not disputing is the things that those women said were really bad. That was terrible. Now, this lady put a tweet out about the documentary saying that a year ago, British media reached out to me to participate in a hit piece about Russell's rape allegations. It was weird. I told them I'm not a victim. We've never even met. And they still pushed me to find out anything to say. Whatever's going on, it's organised and vicious. And more than just that one person have said similar things about the way they were approached to be involved in that documentary and that they declined. And I have no idea if they're telling the truth. I think it's relevant to this story, but I don't know if they're telling the truth. One thing that was in the documentary that a lot of people thought, fuck me, this is pretty powerful, was text messages. Apparently they'd verified these text messages were directly from Russell to the alleged victim. And this is allegedly what was said. Russell, I'm sorry, that was crazy and selfish. I hope you can forgive me. I know that you're a lovely person. Nadia, I don't know if that's her real name, but you scared the shit out of me. You're right, I am a lovely person. And for you to take advantage of me like this, is unexpected. You have a problem, you need help. It's dangerous that you think you can get your own way all the time. Do you know how scary you are when you get that glazed look comes over you? When a girl says no, it means no. Do I have to go and get myself tested? Last time you asked me condom or no condom. When I say condom, that doesn't mean it's optional. You don't have the best reputation. I pride myself being safe and trying to make the right decisions. Obviously, this was a bad one. I'm so disappointed. Russell, I'm very sorry. You don't need to get tested. I will make this up to you somehow with love and kindness. Not my original idea, which was more sex. You've been lovely to me and I'm embarrassed by my behavior. Sorry. Now that message, however you want to cut it, it doesn't look good at all. Some people have speculated that it was in reference to a condom or no condom disagreement that had gone on where Russell hadn't worn a condom, for example. Other people have suggested it's a consent or no consent conversation. And I could see how anyone could look at that and say either, to be honest with you. It just fucking looks terrible, doesn't it? Whether it was about consent or the condom, he admits in that message that he was selfish and he broke her trust sexually. Outside of that, I have no idea what other evidence they've got, because the UK ain't like Romania where we can just literally flick through the Andrew Tate files. It's hard to get to know what's out there. I've looked online and some have speculated that in order for them to go, this far with it, that maybe there's more evidence than just text messages. But for this to happen so long ago, who knows really? Now, since the news broke on the charges, Russell has made a response video.
We're very fortunate in a way to live in a time where there's so little trust in the British government. We're very fortunate, I suppose, that this is happening at a time where we know that the law has become a kind of weapon to be used against people, institutions, and sometimes entire nations that will not accept and tolerate levels of corruption that are unprecedented. I'm speaking particularly to those of you that are watching this in the UK. How do you feel about your legal system right now? How do you feel about some of the high-profile cases that are not being pursued and prosecuted? How do you feel that the Southport murders were handled? How do you feel about the government of Keir Starmer? Now, that's just sort of general context. I've always told you guys that when I was young and single, before I had my wife and family, who were just out of shot over there, my beautiful children, I was a fool, man. I was a fool before I lived in the light of the Lord. I was a drug addict, a sex addict, and an imbecile. But what I never was a rapist. I've never engaged in non-consensual activity. I pray that you can see that by looking in my eyes. I want to thank all of you for your continuing support. I want to let you know that our show will be on Rumble on Monday. Thanks for your support there. And of course, I'm now going to have the opportunity to defend these charges in court, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. In the meantime, you lot, stay free.
And that response video was quite heavily criticised, particularly because he mentioned the Southport murders. One person posted, "How do you think the parents of the children killed in Southport now feel when a grifter and alleged rapist has just used their grief to try and mitigate these exceedingly serious charges?" And I get what they mean in that this probably wasn't the best thing to bring up given the circumstances. He's kind of riffing generally there, in my opinion, and plucking out just random examples of government corruption. And that was probably not a good one to choose, given that it's so completely different to what he's going through right now. A lot of Trump supporters are definitely supporting Russell on this. I think he's aligned with their party recently, but more so, they have seen how the left have funded, investigations into Donald Trump to ruin him politically. So I think they're more naturally believing that this could be a conspiracy. Speaking of conspiracies, Alex Jones has had his say on it. He said this is all a part of the desperate pedo-controlled UK government's attempt to silence any opposition. The first we heard of these unsubstantiated allegations, I don't know how he would know that, but was right after Russell Brand powerfully came out against the globalist satanic system. I would also like to ask whatever happened to the statute of limitations. And now, a word from our sponsors. Now, we hear about people getting hacked online all the time, and the reality is someone could be stealing your data right now. If you're getting spam emails or random phone calls from numbers you don't recognize, that could easily mean your info has been compromised. It happens to all of us, and if you want to take control of your data, just click the link in the description below and check out Incogni. And the reason we need Incogni is because there are people out there known as data brokers, and they just collate all of your personal information. Anything from your email, your full name, your address, even your political affiliation. And then they sell all of this info on you far and wide, which is why all of these marketing agencies and businesses are randomly contacting you. And not just that, but there's people using this information to con people out of money. It's pretty friggin' serious, like. And that is where Incogni come to the rescue. They reach out to all these data brokers on your behalf and demand that all your information be removed from their databases. And they don't just do this for a one-time thing. They will continue to police the internet on your behalf to make sure that your details don't get out there again. All you need to do is click the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. You then grant them the right to work on your behalf, kick back, relax, and Incogni will let you know when you're all sorted. And the great thing is it's risk-free for 30 days, so if you try it and you don't fancy it, you can always get a free refund. So take back your personal data today, click the link in the description below and use the code Geordie, all block capitals, all one word, and you can get 60% off your annual plan. Big thanks to Incogni for looking after us all, but for now, enjoy the video. The statute of limitations in America is where there's like a time frame for how long can go by before, you know, you're no longer able to make an allegation. So, for example, with this being over 20 years, I don't know if you'd be able to even make these allegations in America because it's been so long since it happened. In the UK, especially I think with rape, that doesn't apply. Whether you agree with Alex Jones or not, I think everyone is aware that we're in a really weird place right now with the government and freedom of speech and them using the police to attack that. This stat was released recently. More than 30 Brits a day are being arrested over social media posts. That is fucking insane. We're literally getting rid of like pedos and real bad criminals out of jail. We're giving them suspended sentences and bullshit like that, and we're putting people like this in jail for saying nasty things online. I mean, that's fucking insane in my opinion. And I'm not supporting anything that anyone says, right? This is very generic. They could have said anything. Who gives a fuck? But physically hurting people should always come before nasty words. But this government now is the most geared towards censorship government I've ever seen in my life in the UK. This woman was jailed for 3 years for a very nasty tweet, which is below, about mass deportations and setting fire to the hotels of the immigrants. Obviously, horrible tweet, horrible thing to say, like setting fire to people, like you fucking mental. She also threw in there, while you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. They jailed her for 3 years. This BBC News presenter was found with the worst of the worst images on his computer. I think he was even paying for them, and he walked free. The guy's a fucking pedo, and he didn't see a fucking day inside. She got 3 years for a horrible tweet. This woman killed her own baby, and they were like, it was postnatal, innit? They let her go free. A baby killer. Again, I'm not saying what this woman wrote was okay, but like, where's the fucking common sense gone? Like, I mean, maybe fine her or what? Like, the fact that these people are getting let out and not seeing a day inside, and she's inside for years. We all know loads of these fuckers, they gone free, don't they? Loads of these pedos, they gone free. It's completely fucking mental. I have had worse things said about me, way worse things than that tweet, by the way. Loads of them. Do I think everyone who said those nasty, horrible messages to me or whatever should be in jail? Do I fuck? It's ridiculous. I'd much rather jails be filled with the people who really, really should be locked away for the safety of other people, not people who say nasty things and upset people. Fucking nuts, man. Now, as much as some people have been defending Russell, there are people who are absolutely already convinced that he has done this. J.K. Rowling tweeted out, the woman who wrote Harry Potter, if you don't know, it's always the ones you most suspect, she said. I don't know if they've ever had a back and forth or whatever, but that is a serious dig. When you look at how many people listen to what she has to say. This woman, Dr. Charlotte Proudman, is a law family barrister. She tweeted, as Russell Brand apparently faces serious accusations of sexual abuse, he denies everything, attacks the media for its lies, and claims to be a victim of media conspiracy and his own promiscuous ways. It's classic Darvo behavior. Apparently Darvo is like a method used by people to deflect. So first the D stands for deny. You say it's never happened, as Russell is saying it's never happened. You attack, you attack the accuser's credibility, attack the media, blame them, which it's Andrew Tate fucking tactics 101 basically. They're all out to get me, yada, yada, yada. And then the RVO bit is reverse victim and offender. So you're now the victim of the attack, and the person accusing you is actually the one doing this to you. And you can make your own minds up on whether or not you think Russell is doing that. Obviously, I have to provide a balanced view of this. And when I mentioned earlier about Russell getting supported by the Trump supporters, people have now sort of flipped that and went, well, yeah, he deliberately moved over to the right to support Trump because he knew when the shit hits the fan, the Trump supporters, because of the way they are, will be a lot more likely to side with him and support him the way they have with the likes of an Andrew Tate, for example. And honestly, I don't think that there's any provable way you can say that. And I think there's a lot of people, not just Russell Brand, who have gone from maybe leaning slightly left or left and recently have now been leaning right because of how much the left has dramatically changed. And look, those people have also said that's why he's now saying positive things about Andrew Tate, because he's trying to get in with that click sort of thing. Here's a couple of tweets that Russell actually posted about Andrew Tate in January. He said, before you dismiss Andrew Tate for some of the wild things he said on the internet, which I myself have also done, you better understand that the independent media is changing the world quicker than the old institutions of power can fathom. It is inevitable that independent media alliances will shape and even form new political power. Don't rule out anything anymore. He then also said, whatever you think of Andrew Tate, he appeals to a lot of people, and he's a vessel for a lot of ideas that cannot be repressed and need to be discussed, in which he talks about in that video. Interestingly, the community note beneath that was, Tate has been charged for sex acts with a minor. She was only 15. He was also caught bribing her to lie to the police for him and picked up another charge, influencing statements because of it. Obviously, when I seen Russell was speaking about Tate in a sort of fairly positive way, I was like, oh. And I sent him a message with a video that I'd made on Tate and just was like, look, mate, if you want to know the full backstory, there it is. He never replied, but I thought, like, I've done my bit, you know, now you have what you're supposed to have, and that's all I can do out here. What I will say is, if he does continue to speak positively about Tate as time goes on, I think that will be a horrific idea. Tate has been an expert at convincing stupid people that he is innocent despite the mountains of evidence, including video footage of him being violent towards women. If Russell was to keep being positive about him and align himself with Tate in any way, you know, as time goes by, it will appear to some people that, you know, this isn't just him being politically explorational and getting opinions from different people. It will look to some people like you are trying to almost gain support from his fans, from someone who has successfully manipulated the narrative around the accusations that are made about him raping people. And I'm not saying that that's what Russell was doing in those tweets, for example. He may have no fucking clue, as many people don't for some reason, about what Tate has really been up to. But regardless of how much anyone knows, there's enough out there for people to know that if you support Tate, you support violence against women, in my opinion. So I think Russell should think long and hard before he ever speaks about Andrew Tate again and think about what direction he really wants to take here. And look, he's also been accused of becoming religious to, you know, in some way alleviate guilt or to make himself appear completely different before the shit hits the fan. And Russell's always been someone who talked about spirituality and meditation, and he's been banging on about that stuff for fucking years. So I always thought that he would go in this direction. So it didn't really surprise me that much. I get what people say, like, you know, when guys go to jail, they all of a sudden become religious. I do get what they're saying, but he's been speaking about this stuff for God knows how long. Now, when it comes to the chances of Russell being convicted, I mean, when I first, you know, did a bit of reading, I was like, fuck me, 20 plus years ago, how possible can it be that what can they possibly have after all that time, right? And I was just thinking, like, to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt after all that time is surely going to be difficult. But then you look at people like Max Clifford, the famous publicist, and Rolf Harris, the children's entertainer. They were both convicted, and their crimes were like 30 to 50 years before they went to trial. So it is possible. You know, if these women are telling the truth and they are convincing in court, the length of time might not make a difference. I did read into how long he could get if he was found guilty of all the charges, and it said online between 15 to 25 years, with 20 years being a midpoint of maybe what they would settle on if he was found guilty of everything. I then looked at the CPS statistics to see, you know, what are the odds of him being found guilty in comparison to all the other cases that go through the courts, and it said between 40 to 47% was like the conviction rate. Now, obviously, these stats have absolutely nothing to do with the specifics of this case. This is not just any case, is it? This is a fucking celebrity case with with one of the most outspoken celebrities against government in the world, and he's one of the most listened to in the world. So honestly, who knows what the fuck's going to happen. This is 20 years ago, right? This is a different time, a different version of Russell, and I have no idea, what happened. I've told you everything I could find, and hopefully I've been balanced and I've been honest and told you how it makes me feel fucking terrible talking about this. I do think about his wife and his kids, and that this is just going to impact a lot of people, right? Not just, Russell himself. And just because I know Russell doesn't mean I don't consider the impact on the alleged victims. There's 4 people saying that this happened, and I do take that into consideration with everything I'm thinking about. So I just pray that whoever's making this decision gets it spot on, because it's going to impact a lot of people. Let me know what you think in the comments below if you haven't already, and I really hope people have actually heard us out instead of jumping to conclusions that I'm, doing anything out of order here, because I really have tried to be as good as I can be for you lot. I appreciate everyone supporting the channel. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you on the next one.